Thank you. So, warm welcome also from my side. And maybe a short introduction. Yeah, my name is Karl-Heinz Goebbels. I'm a program manager, product owner in the T-Systems area. I'm working now since 21 years in the road charging, so everything which is beyond tolling. And it's a long time, and in a couple of weeks I will change my mindset, but stay in the AWS area. Yeah, I'm studied in business computing and do a lot of stuff. So one of our customers, one of the biggest EETS companies, which has 250 million euro toll revenue per month, so you can imagine that we have very high SLAs. It's operating 450,000 onboard units, so we receive millions of CDRs every day. 1.2 billion network SMS we receive, that's amazing, and was always operated on-premise in 2 data centers since 2015. That was my third toll provider, what I set up as responsible IT person, so there was also 2 before, one in Germany and one in Belgium, and this is then the European-wide. And we have a yearly storage growth from 35 to 40 terabyte. Yeah. What should I say? We are operating these services for our customer in 16 countries and lots of tunnels, borders and everything. So the goal is that a truck driver has one device and can drive through the European Union and all countries where you need to pay a toll amount is collected by this device. That's the idea behind this. Our journey. So, in June 2020, I thought it was maybe a good idea to inform my management that we should maybe also think about to move from on-premise into AWS. They were not so happy, yeah, because they know if I do something, it will always cost a lot of money, as always. So I decided to step back from my tripod function, so from the management position, and go back to the roots really on the console, and push my deputy to be my manager, which is also amazing because she is normally she could be my daughter, yeah? But it's a very nice relationship. Then we started with another colleague, and after 2 months I was thinking a little bit, okay, was I arrested for the last 20 years because I only saw on-premise, I always had a provider. Once it was T-Systems, then I joined T-Systems, then I had another company in Belgium, but I was really not aware what is cloud and what amazing features I have in AWS. So for me, I was really thinking, okay, open the world. And then we started to think about, at the end of 2020, we migrated then from our own account into, let's say, the PU digital on our PU public cloud from our side, and joined then, let's say, from the commercial perspective and also from know-how from the AWS powerhouse in T-Systems. And yeah, in October 2021, we deployed the first test environment. So a complete end-to-end environment we were able to do. What we did in the whole time in between. Yeah? So in the whole time in between, we need to recognize, okay, we need now to do our landing zone, our VPC, how we do the VPC, how we should tag everything, because that's one of the important points you ever do, and a cloud provider is tagging. We deployed everything with Terraform. We learned Terraform. We used TerraGround as wrapper. We provided modules so that we can reuse this, etc., etc. But it was a goal to have, end of 2021, the first deployment of an end-to-end. And of course, it was also a long journey for taking my colleagues with. In a short nutshell, in 2022, we deployed successfully the hotfix, the development, operational test environment, do monitoring and alerting, load performance, yeah, and had then the complete production ready and did 2 dry runs. 2 dry runs completely with data from production. So we sync permanent already since 6 months, every productive data to have then the data migration and the cutover very short. Otherwise, I need to have a 2 or 3 weeks downtime to export the data, to import the data, which is impossible because the service can only be for 8 hours down. Organizational, one of the biggest topics. Also some colleagues here, we need to create a vision. We need to have consent in the staff and get a commitment of the staff to change from I'm always doing like this, but now you change it and you need to automate, you need to deploy, you need to learn new abbreviations like what is in VPC, what is in EC2, I only know a VM, etc. So it's really hard to train the staff all these points. One of the biggest goals is always communicate openly and give them also responsibility. Otherwise, you never will do this. On the other side, the second key success factor was technical migrations, because we need to think about migration option. Do we really redeploy, refactor? Do we need to program complete new applications? Which is hell, because we have lots of tolling applications which are designed since 15 years. And you cannot say, oh, change the whole framework and go from a normal EC2 provided installation, so an OS, an application, and also a database, directly move this into a Kubernetes pod. It's not impossible because the people are not aware that this is possible, let's say on this way. So new environment strategies based on infrastructure as code baselines, automatization, and of course, with respect, we need also data protection and security because we are handling information of truck drivers, which is under, for example, in Germany, under GDPR law. In each country, you have to respect also the GDPR and, of course, also security points. And what we want to achieve? Yes, we want to achieve, speed for future deployments to be ready for next offers. If customer wants to have a new tolling system in any country, we want to go away from this old CAPEX, OPEX model where I need to buy today for the next 5 years the hardware already and cannot change it because I need to pay this, to a pay-as-you-use model. And of course, also one important point is they're always asking the IT chef, what is the cost of my process? And I can say, I have a big contract with an on-premise provider. There are big blocks in, but what is in there, I cannot make this as a drill down. It's impossible. So we want to have also transparency. Of course, data protection, as I stated, was one of the biggest points. So we use there also, let's say, from my colleagues from T-System, let's say, features out of the landing zone. We manage then also the data resistancy, everything which is there, data confidentiality. So we use a lot of information out of the group, which give us then, as a smaller area in the group, better transparency, faster implementations, and also the approval from the group, which is then also important in direction of our customers, so that we directly, in the beginning, use this know-how in the group. And of course, you all know this, there are so many security features, which is amazing. I think maybe 2 we miss now, all the others we are completely implemented. And the most of them we really did it with Terraform, and we are just busy with the security officer. But with respect, directly in the infrastructure as a code, we implement directly security. So for example, if we have an RDS module which deploy a database, this is then an, let's say, privacy security approved version. And on top, after the deployment, we have a sub-module which directly implement the rules to protect this PSA for each database and document this also. So that you, during the deployment, have already fulfilled all your rules, which is very important. Otherwise, you cannot track all these points. Okay, based on what you know, normally there are 7 Rs. We use only 5. Yeah? In total, we make, and I'm talking about November last year, we make 72 tolling operations. We make a lift and shift, so maybe mostly a rehosting. There are lots of optimization in, so they all use HTTPS, they all use actual OS or based on Red Hat, etc., etc. And all this is now encrypted on EBS volume with own customer KMS keys, etc. We also directly use, or we make use from RDS services. So there's no database manually installed, only during the migration, because it was impossible to migrate from on-premise directly in an RDS database. This feature is not possible via DMS from AWS. So what we did is we include in our on-premises, let's say an EC2 instance with an Oracle or Postgres database, and include this in DataGuard or via the Postgres sync, so that we have a full replica in AWS up and running, and then we export the data via DMS directly in an RDS database. So that was the case that we have 6 months already directly active sync all the data in the cloud. We had then also 2 repurchasing, so we used 2 SaaS applications and 25 applications we completely refactor. Yeah? Completely, I will explain which one, or short introduction, what we do there. And one we could decommission, at least for this customer, but I learned also last week for the next customer, which is now onboarding in AWS, where we are next week starting with the test environment, there I need to reactivate because there is no possibility to retire or decommission this application, so it comes back again. But it's for another customer. Okay, SaaS solution. So maybe one important point. So we use Atlas MongoDB as also one of our database possibilities. It's completely in Terraform integrated. Even they use our AWS KMS keys, and it's also integrated in our single sign-on. And maybe the more important point is there that we 4 weeks before we did the cutover, so it was on 20 November last year, so 4 weeks before we decided to go this way. Because beforehand, they're always running their MongoDB in a pod, but this was so huge, and that the architecture from the pod in OpenShift was not able to run this database anymore because of the sizing and the performance what is needed there. So that was for me really a risk. But on the other side, 4 weeks before you do the real cutover and you have all tests done, to switch then a complete in a new technology was also a risk. But together with the team, we decided, we did it, and it was the right decision. It's running like hell now in Atlas, and the team is so happy. I will come back to this point. And on the other hand, what I told also was the tagging, which is very important also for the cost transparency. So I don't have really any interest to look in all this Excel what AWS provide me, or the Cost Explorer. So this is for me a service which is not so sufficient. So I was looking for something, and I cannot exclude that today we are on AWS. Maybe tomorrow there comes another customer who wants to go with Google or with Azure. Yeah? So I cannot avoid this because it's maybe also customer driven. So I want to have something where I really, on a fast way, receive the information to make the cost transparency. And exactly 1 year before, I had the contact here with Apptio, with Cloudability. We make a proof of concept, and I can tell after 3 weeks, all my data was there, and I had my reports. So it's really amazing. We spent then more and more in this area, so we have no full cost transparency. So I see really on application-based, if you tag your application on group-based, on owner-based, they can all create their reports or their widgets and dashboards. So completely there. What is now the next step is that the FinOps manager, this is also something what we now have since 2 months, now will talk to the business to map this infrastructure to the right business process, so that you can gain the next layer and that you later know which is what are the costs for my business services. Yeah? So that was also a great successful story, and this is not possible if you go on premise. Yeah? This is definitely not the case. Okay, rewriting decoupling of applications, so completely network, VPC, direct connect, site-to-site VPN, transition gateway, all the stuff which is there, all in Terraform. Single sign-on. You know that AWS provides a single sign-on, but it's more for me to integrate this in another single sign-on solution. So we built a complete new single sign-on based on ClickOc and the Microsoft Active Directory. Have a provisioning tool for the whole user management that integrated in this all applications. So if there is an application or a service which is not feasible to run in this environment, I will not activate the service. So I don't want to do second user management, which is not the case also from security point of view. So this is completely set up, everything directly on. Yeah, as I told, we did everything in refactoring, so it's all based on Kubernetes AWS cluster. Also, the whole CI/CD. So normally, as you use, we have an Artifactory, we have a GitLab, we have Jenkins, all the tools which is there, all running on an AWS EKS cluster. Monitoring, alerting. We used for this, for example, OpenSearch, which was a change because on premise we had Splunk. Then we have Grafana, Prometheus, everything was there, all integrated in our Jira. Even we use also the AWS, I don't know the name at the moment, for automatic calling, Connect, so AWS Connect, to do automatic calling, so that by a pre-run, the teams for themselves can decide on which level of prioritization there will be in call directly to the on-call duty mailbox, so that we are also informed. So everything is there. Also the access system, so we built our own Bastion host, deployment host. We need to integrate a platform where we have an RDP via HTML solution, because as you know, you have lots of people of different companies. Nobody is able to work, not everyone is able to work with an RDP from his PC. It's always the same. I cannot do an SSH login because the port is blocked in my company. I cannot do RDP. So I directly say, no, that's not the way how we want to work. So we set up an RDP via HTML solution. That's also nice because we can reuse this also as landing page, so that all the links are there, and you can also set up the on top security. Yeah, and we also set up then container services. We used already on-premise OpenShift 3. So this is completely in Terraform deployed in AWS. And now we just, for 2-3 weeks, we successfully deployed then OpenShift Rosa cluster for the teams, and also an AWS EKS Kubernetes cluster, so that the teams can now, for themselves, make the decision if they want to rewrite their application, if they go with OpenShift Kubernetes or with AWS Kubernetes. So give them the freedom and they can choose. So we offer both services. Yeah, as I stated, we do everything with Terraform and TerraGround. Maybe in the future we will change it to Terraform Enterprise, if they are not so expensive. Yeah? Maybe I need to talk to the account manager, because that's at the moment a little bit the blocking factor. All the Terraform states are now stored in an Amazon S3 bucket. Logs are stored in a DynamoDB, so that not people which are working on the same infrastructure block himself. And it's all in the live repo. So in total, last year in November, it's already increased. We had core modules, so we have 3 layers. So we have a core module, we have service modules and application modules. Core module is always a reference to an AWS service, as you see in Amazon AKS, Amazon OpenSearch, or EC2, RDS, whatever you have, or VPC. And service module is where we give a service to our internal customers. So my colleagues, which are organized in squads and tribes, and they're working. So like an OpenShift cluster or a Bastion deployment host, SaaS solution, and of course the application modules, which is also each application has its own Terraform module, so that we can also directly reuse this if they want to change for one application their stack, then we can directly do this in this, and of course, in this model. In total, last year we had 10 accounts. Now we have 2 additional already. So 10 accounts plus one master account. And all this done for one customer we did in 2,283 commits and in nearly 300,000 lines of code. That's all. That's the whole production. Production, development environment, end-to-end environment, hotfix environment, operational test environment, and production environment. And all, besides, all are running, or let's say the most are running in EU West. So all test environments are running in EU West because it's the cheapest region in Europe. And the production is running in EU Central in Frankfurt. Operational test and production is directly built in 3 data centers. So it's completely built up in 3 data centers because of the high SLAs. But that was also the pity from the management, because on-premise they had always an active passive, and now they have 3 data centers, which they also now see in their pocket. But now the stress should start because they now need to change their applications. Okay, security achievements, we have consistency, we have really much improved the data privacy and data security based on this Terraform. Because we know exactly what is deployed, and if we gain an issue, we can directly correct this automatically. Performance, much better than on-prem, absolutely amazing. Everyone is really having, and also that they see now the load of their own EC2 instance, because that was never on-premise possible, because that was another supplier. Which gave this offer, and I never saw a CPU or RAM load monitor of an VM. Now I see everything. And this is not that I see this from the IT perspective, and also the squads which are using this. So this is amazing. Yeah, we had good progress in operational testing for load and performance. We achieved also this hour for 8, so during the cutover, so we were in the 8-hour window. Yeah, efficiency, transparency, I think that's the point. But the most important point is we really decrease our daily issues for over 90%. And this is amazing. So sometimes you are asking, what should I do with my free time? And that's not only on my side. That's typically management. What should I do with the free time? So we really decrease it a lot, and also not on our side, but also the squads which are working with this, because beforehand they need always to open tickets. Now they don't have the tickets. They're also not involved in the lots of tickets. So they also really reduce their daily issues sometimes until really lower than 20%, which is also the pros, because the pro is now they have time to think how I can change my application, how I can save cost, how I can change my architecture. So, and this is only possible if you have really a stable infrastructure. And honestly, until now, we had never a failure from any AWS service. And we are running now, as you see on the time schedule, a long time already. Yeah, of course, you have sometimes a health check for an EC2 instance, but I love this also because then you have the notification, it's directly open in Jira on our side. You can schedule or reschedule, or you accept this, the schedule what they propose. It's also very handy that AWS do it like patching. If you have an open search, you receive the information, here is a new patch, and you have 6 months time. Yeah? In the past, on-premise, no, you cannot patch the databases. No, we cannot do this because we need to deploy our releases, and we have this and this. And then always IT, postpone, and at the end you have so many postponed activities that you are not able to do this. Yeah? And that's, again, that's always the pain. This is not happening in AWS because absolutely happy, they say 6 months, this AWS Oracle version is out of scope, you need to upgrade. Very clear. I love this. So, next steps, where we are already busy, because I'm talking from November until now. So, make all the applications cloud ready. Yeah? That's the point, because only on this way you really come to decrease your cost. Yeah? If you do lift and shift, definitely you have more cost. It's normal. That's migration. But then you need to start and need to shift your application, and this is the understand what everyone should have. Yeah? Also microservices based on Kubernetes framework, using serverless. So, you know, I stated we're using OpenSearch. Yeah? Now OpenSearch serverless is coming out, so we use directly for the newest customer directly a serverless instance to compare what are the costs for the serverless and what are the costs for the the other service where you have really booked the modules. Yeah? We need to optimize the CI/CD pipelines, of course, because now also the teams will use the CI/CD pipelines, and then, I need Argo, I need this, and I want to have Helm charts and all this stuff. So happy to support them, that they really been faster in their deployment, independenter in their deployment. Yeah? We need definitely always train the people, because with hell, what is coming out of new functions in AWS, you need to train the people continuously, or otherwise, as we all do, ask Tante Google. It's always the same. And of course, what should I say? That's always the case. It's also one funny, because the whole story was during the Corona break, and then normally, if you want to gain a lot of people and tell them, okay, what is AWS? Then I say, okay, let's do a brown bag session. But a brown bag session during Corona is really shit. You cannot do this. How you should do this? So we decided, okay, let's do a new Intech. We say we make a new Intech cloud. We do this always every 14 days. During during noon, I say, okay, 2 hours we reserved. And in the beginning, we prepare this. So we tell how you can certify it, where you find information, what are the services, we explain. And then we had lots of POCs where people really trying on the playground, I do this and this. And they introduce their results into the whole group so that you motivate themselves. And you need to give them a playground. Otherwise, they cannot do this. So it was really funny. And also during Corona, we could manage this. And on the same time as we did this, we had in 2019 a really big organizational change. So go away from old silos, go into an agile organization with tripeds and squads. And then we recognized, okay, with 23 squads and also additional 10 from a big supplier, you need to organize this. And then we introduced the SAFe. So in the whole time where we're doing this, the organization really was amazing, because it was not only the technical change, so away from the old-fashioned way into the AWS world, so on top, they also did an organizational change, and also the SAFe framework implementation helps also a lot. For me, it was a little bit a pity, because I was always, as program manager, I'm the one who decided. But then, no, the teams decided, because in the increment, they need to decide, is it feasible to reach the goal or not? So it's also a mindset change for everyone. Lessons learned. What should I say? One big point what I can lay out about this is that you really should clean up your databases before, what we not did. And that was really a pity, because you also synchronize in the 6 months all the temporary tables, or tables which maybe should as long deleted. And then you recognize, oh shit, that's a lot. So one really good recommendation is, before you start with this migration, to really a clean up of files, file shares and databases and whatever, because it's much faster. That was one of the biggest important points. But the rest, I can only say, it was a high workload, but the motivation was there, and we are happy that we could achieve the goal last year. Meanwhile, we have transferred the second customer from on-prem in AWS, and as I stated, on Monday, we start with the test environment for the third customer, and happy for every additional customer. And as Thomas and Edison always say, maybe that's not the right way, but you can always find a better one. Happy to ask your questions.